Umbrella Academy Season 4 is right around the corner, and sadly it is the final season. This incredible show has told such a good story and created such a good universe in the past 5 years, and yet we still have many unanswered questions. So today I've prepared some of those questions I still have, in hopes that we will finally get some definitive answers. Before we start, if you do go on to enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I will be making more videos on Umbrella Academy, and I make videos on so many other popular shows that you will probably enjoy watching those videos as well. But let's just get started. So my first of these questions is, how did the Umbrella Academy Ben actually die? This has always been a question I think people have been asking since the inception of the show. It always seemed like an event that was so key to the children's story, and yet they never gave us an answer. And I still want to know why that is. Looking at the trailer for the new season, it does seem like we will be getting that answer, so I'm not too worried it's going to get overlooked. In Season 3 we finally got a name to go along with this event, and it was called the Jennifer Incident. We see that in the timeline for Season 3, Sparrow Ben did not die in that incident, and yet it killed Umbrella Ben. With the fact that they added to that plotline and Ben seems to be more prevalent in this newest season, I can almost guarantee that this question will be answered, and I can't wait for the answer. The next question I have is, why does Sloane disappear at the end of Season 3? I understand she wasn't part of the original timeline, and this new timeline is meant to be a reset of the first one, but neither was the Sparrow version of Ben, and he is still here at the end of that season. We also see Allison reunite with Claire, whilst also having Ray be the father now, which is not even close to the original Season 1 timeline, and if that can work, why is Sloane not here? Like, where is she? Now, I'm mainly concerned because we can't have Luther missing out on his happy ending while Allison gets every single thing she wants. With this being the last season, that surely cannot happen. The next question is, why does Allison still have her injuries after Season 3? Five had his arm amputated and Diego lost his fingers, and yet they both come back fully healed as if that never even happened to them. The only thing I can think of is that she was not one of the power people used for the 7 bells, whilst clearly all the others were. But considering things like Ray being able to be put in this timeline as a different child's father, why would Allison choose to remain beaten up? Because it's very clear anything can go right now in this reality. I have a feeling the answer to that will be linked to how Luther and Ray are alive in this timeline, and why the children don't have powers as well. And that's almost guaranteed to get talked upon, so I'm not too worried about that. The next question I want answered, even if it's not essential to know, is what actually is Viktor's powers? In Season 1, it seemed to be related to sound and the energy that gave off. And then in Season 2, there was not really much focus on sound, and instead Viktor was able to revive Harland, even giving the boy powers himself. In Season 3, it technically goes a step further in the fact that the energy that Viktor has was able to give Allison an upgraded version of her powers. Which makes me believe that out of all the children that the powers were given to, Viktor was almost given the power to create powers, almost like a life power. Similar to how Klaus is like the king of death, Viktor is the king of life almost. Although Viktor doesn't have every power every child has, I still think that could be the case because it's been used to bring life and upgrade the lives of these powered people. As well as obviously in Season 1 being used to move nature and actually using nature to power themselves. Not to mention it seemed like Viktor created Marigold within themselves when giving it to Harlan. And the abilities Harlan ends up with actually are different to Viktor slightly, being almost more weather-like, and also having a different colour, being more orange than blue. Like I said, we don't really need this answer, but I'm throwing it out there. My next question is, how does 5 start the commission? Mainly because the version of 5 we see that is apparently the founder now doesn't exist, I don't think. My current theory is that the commission now no longer exists in this new timeline. It links to a theory about how I think the timelines work in this show, and I may elaborate further in a future video I have on the channel. But I think that whenever we are in a timeline and we experience something that is to do with time travel, for example, meeting 5's older self at the commission, those events are based off of what would happen if the current timeline played out in full, from the moment they are currently talking. So the 5 we see in the operation room in Season 3, who created the commission, he only exists at that time because at the moment they're talking, if the timeline was to continue, that would be the path they go down. It's all very confusing, but unless we see the commission come back this season, I'm gonna assume it's just gone for good. Now next, I would love to know who the hotel people were in Season 3, because if I'm not mistaken, they are always the same people in that hotel whenever we visit it, and that is weird, 100%. In the comics, the The use of the hotel is nothing like in the TV show. Instead, it's a prison for their old villains. So we can't use that to guess who these people are, but my best guess is that this hotel is just in fact a hotel, but instead houses the aliens of people from Reginald's past world, or worlds maybe. My next question is also hotel related and is probably not going to get answered, but why is Hotel Oblivion Japanese themed? It just seems so random. I personally would have understood if it was designed after the Academy, like this out of reality pocket dimension chooses a place that you know really well to then mess around with you and create a labyrinth around. I think that generally would have worked better for what they're going for, but the hotel was fine. I just am confused why it wasn't an exact mirror of the real world, why it then changed to be Japanese themed. I understand the restrictions of COVID meant they had to reuse their sets at the time, but they do have the Academy set anyway. And also they had to make an effort to change the color scheme in there and change the food and change the text on everything. They actively made it like that on purpose, and I don't know why. I feel like there has to be a specific reason, but I could be overthinking. Now, a question I still have about Reginald is how he knows of the future apocalypses. We know his goal for the children now was to get them to ring the 7 bells. Also that he could bring his wife back from the dead. But him killing himself in the original timeline to bring them all back together to stop the apocalypse makes no sense to me for quite a few reasons. I mean, 1, how does he know about the Viktor moon apocalypse thing? How? 2, I don't think he cares enough about the Earth or the kids to want to try and save the planet from destruction. 3, him killing himself completely stops his plan in saving his wife. As we have moved on from this timeline pretty much indefinitely, I'm not sure we will ever get the answer to that question, but I'm holding out hope because to me that is the biggest out of character thing we've ever seen for Reginald. I understand that after Ben died and after 5 went missing, he no longer had 7 children for the 7 bells, but I don't think that would make him want to end his own life just to try and save the world. Now, my final question that I want answered the most, as I cannot figure out a way to make it work, is when and where did he release the Marigold that created the children? Season 3 is where we got the ultimate reveal that his long-time plan is bringing his wife back from the dead after going to Project Oblivion. And to do so, he needed 7 soldiers, or 7 powerful people, to beat the Guardians and solve the puzzle. And we get a flashback of him in 1912 starting these efforts, and not long after actually taking 7 soldiers into the hotel to try and beat this puzzle. Because of this, we must assume that before 1912 is when his wife passed and when he released the Marigold, as the point of him going to Oblivion is to reset all of that. After sending in just 7 normal soldiers, it seems to surprise him that they can't beat it, and that's what sparked his idea to make the Umbrella Academy in the first place. Which means his thought of creating the Umbrella Academy came after he already failed one attempt at least of Project Oblivion. If we're running with him releasing the Marigold pre-1912, how is that Marigold the same Marigold that made the children in this show? If he only thought of and needed the children post-1912, how did they come to be? If he is an alien and that was on a different planet, why would he have ever thought to release the Marigold but never have a plan to have the children? Or why does him releasing it cause the kids to be made in the 1980s when that's like 100 years in the future at that point? Unless every scene we've ever saw has been on Earth, in which case the scene from the season 1 finale could have happened after his first failed mission. His wife then dies and then he releases the Marigold to create the children. But that would mean he had the plan to reset the universe before his wife died. There's just too many elements going on in too many different times and timelines and places to actually make sense of any of it. It's just an endless loop of confusion for me. I think just one piece of the puzzle is actually missing here, and to make this work, I think it might actually be that he has another ulterior motive. I'm thinking along the lines that his wife dying is actually just what pushed him even more to go to Oblivion, and that maybe before she passed away, he was always trying to get there to give them a better life. As Reginald is such a smart and manipulative character, I wouldn't put it past him having this plan, and I feel like that could be the one thing we need to make sense of everything. It's not a perfect theory. Again, it might not come true. I just feel like there's a couple things that don't fit together as nicely as you want, and this show is practically flawless when it comes to the time travel and how things work, that I don't think that's a slip up. I think that is intentional, and I can't wait to see if they actually do build upon this. Now, that's just some of my lingering questions before season 4, but make sure to let me know any of the questions you have down in the comments below, as I may make a potential follow-up video after season 4 discussing the questions we did and didn't get answered. With that said, hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.